Christmas Eve. And one day I was doing like kale. We were into kale one year. So I just waited till everyone got there to saute the kale so they could like sit there and watch me chop up onions and watch me crush garlic. And they enjoyed watching me crush garlic. I thought that was weird, but hey, everybody has their own little thing. So they actually stood there and watched me saute kale. But it was hot and it was fresh and they really, really loved it. So there are some things that you can wait till they get there to actually prep.
That is awesome. And now I think with having the information, I can even organize. I did not know about the fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
One of our comments was, "Oh my God, what? I didn't know. I just throw them in together." I think now we can go through and organize our kitchen a little bit better, and also refrigerator. I've always tried to do that. It doesn't happen as often, but I will do it today. So thank you again, Chef Smith, for that. And now we're going to move on to step 4. 4 ways to present your food. And I want to give a credit. Chef Smith was so gracious to provide all the pictures from today's presentation are her own creations, what she's already made. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Chef Smith, we've asked our Girl Scouts to have in advance 2 plates, a spoon, a squeeze bottle, a brush, round mold, and 1 container of baby food. But you have some other items that if they do not have these items at hand, that you are willing, that they can use in substitution for that.
Yes, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about that real quick before we get into it, so that if you need to go run and pick up a few more things from out of the kitchen, you can do that. So I have a stack of plates because I can't stay out of Hobby Lobby, and they always have a sale, so I got a bunch of plates. You can also use paper plates. If you can just get a stack of paper plates, that way you can switch them out every time you do a sauce, or you can get like a white or a washcloth. That way, every time you're done with the sauce, you can wipe it down and reset for the next sauce. I have squeeze bottles, but I wanted to do something different for those of you who either couldn't find a squeeze bottle or didn't have one. So I have mustard. You can use mustard. It is a squeeze bottle, and it takes place if you don't have baby food. Also, if you don't have baby food, you can use ketchup, mayonnaise, salad dressing. You can use any of those, and it's still going to give you the same effect so that you can get the practice for the plate presentations. There's another thing that we're going to try that requires you to use a lid. You don't have to use a lid if you don't have one. I have a mason jar. I love mason jars. I keep mason jars around the house. Of course, you guys know I'm a Southern girl, first of all. I'm a Southern girl. I love mason jars. Decor, you can put juice in them, but I use them for if I have leftovers. So I'll chop my onions in advance, and then I'll keep it inside of a mason jar, put a lid on it. So every time I'm ready to throw some onions in something, I'll just open it up, dump them in there, and I'm good to go. I also do have my rounds, just because I have a lot of cookie cutters. So I already have that. Have the spoon, and you may need a small bowl because there is another technique that requires you to dip the small mold and put it on a plate. So you may need a small bowl. The pastry brush, looking through it, you may not need it. So if you don't have it, you're fine. I did see a question, how long did the onions last in the jar? Mine lasts a little while, honestly. But I put onions in everything. So I'll say 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. But again, I use them all the time, so I'm not sure. I've never really tested it.
And again, Chef Smith, this step is, I love looking at food that is decorated. I love going to different restaurants and seeing how they decorate the dessert plates or the menu or the menu. So girls, we want you to really follow along with us today. And in addition to that, this is a great way, as Chef Smith said, to wow your guests and have them leaving a lasting impression like, oh my God, my Girl Scout ambassador, she did this. So that's going to be awesome. So we are now on step 4, the art of decorating your plate.
All right. So plate presentation is very important because, as you guys know, you eat with your eyes. One thing that took me a really long time to actually try is beef stroganoff. it just looks disgusting to me. It looks so nasty. But I actually tried it one day because I do like to try different things. I really do. And I'm not going to go through the list of things that I've tried because it's weird. But I like to try different things. I like to try weird things. The only thing I probably won't try is like squirrel. But I've had like frog legs and things like that before because I want to know what it tastes like. I don't want to say, oh, I don't like that if I've never tasted it. And it also broadens your taste buds. So there's something, and it sounds made up, but it's something called a super taster, which means that you have more taste buds in a certain area than most people do. And you can't become a super taster if you don't try different things. So I feel like I can put on my resume that I'm a super taster, and somebody will hire me for that. But once I tried beef stroganoff, I realized that I liked it. But I think if it looked better, I would have tried it a long time ago. So you do definitely want to practice plate presentation. You don't really want to try things that feel like they've just been slapped on a plate because it just doesn't look good. So we are going to be practicing, think about 4 or 5 different plate presentations. Some of them are pretty practical. Most of them are very easy. And when you are doing plate presentation, you want to do something that complements your dish and something that maybe even is already in the dish. So I know later on today, I'm going to be doing a chocolate cake. So if I'm doing plate presentation, I could do chocolate, just like a chocolate ganache on the plate, or like caramel or something like that, because it matches with what I'm doing. Oh, I'm about to drop this on. There we go. All right, y'all ready to get into it? All right, gotta go through this. All right, so all of them are pretty simple. The first one, you're going to need your squeeze bottle, which, like I told you guys, I have mustard, and you're going to need your spoon and a plate, of course. All right, and I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to go ahead and finish getting that together, and then I'm going to go ahead and start the demo.
And we want to encourage our Girl Scouts to go ahead and put these techniques into plates. We have Easter coming up, so I plan to do a little razzle dazzle myself during Easter with these skills that I am using today.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go through it. You guys are more than welcome to go with me or do it right after I'm done. So I'm shaking up my mustard, of course, because mustard, whenever you don't shake it up, it's like it separates and that water comes out first, and we don't want that. So I'm shaking it up really good. And then you're going to take your bottle at a 45-degree angle, and then you're just going to squeeze some dots. So you can do big dots. You can do big dots. You can do small dots. And just place them around the plate. All right, so you can either leave them like that. I know when I was in college, that was my go-to plate presentation, and that was a whole class, by the way. Hot and cold plate presentations, I loved it. I ate everything in college, I really did. So you can leave them like that, or you can take the tip of your spoon, obviously the back of it, and just slide it right through in different directions. All right, and then you're left with something like that. So you can leave them as circles, or you can spread them out. And then when you're using something like this, you would put whatever your item is right here so that you can kind of see the sauce. Or you can put it on the top. And then if you're doing meat, something savory, you would put the savory right here, and then your vegetables right here. And you can stack them up because you usually want some type of height on a plate. If you're doing a dessert and, I don't know, caramel, for some reason caramel's popping out in my head, I would do the caramel circles and then like a slice of cake or whatever dessert I'm doing. The dots, like I said, the dots are my go-to. You can swipe with your spoon or you can keep it plain. Either one is fine. And then when you're doing desserts, I love desserts, first of all. I just want to go ahead and put that out there. When you're doing desserts can be done ahead of time. Even if you're doing a plate presentation for your dessert, you can do that ahead of time, put it in the refrigerator, put it in the freezer. And people are really going to enjoy that. You just bust that out at the last minute. Who's ready for dessert? And then boom. And they'll love it. They really will. So like I said, that one's, somebody said yay for desserts. Exactly. So this one's really simple. All of them are really simple. All right, so if you're going to use another plate, go ahead and get your second plate, or you can just wipe this off and go ahead to the next one. Like I said, I have a variety of plates, so I'm gonna use my flamingo. All right, the next one is called the Half Moon Push. So you're going to need a round mold, the larger one, your squeeze bottle, and your spoon. And I have some wipes over here, so I'm just gonna wipe off my spoon. Oh, and I did want to add, especially right now, since we are practicing cleanliness like we have never practiced cleanliness before, make sure you are always washing your hands in between each thing. Once you're actually doing the dinner party, you're gonna wash your hands in between each activity. So if you're prepping meat, you wash your hands, move on to the next thing. If you're doing a salad, you wash your hands, move on to the next thing. Also, when you are cleaning off your dinner table, you want to clean it with hot soapy water, not sanitizer, because that sanitizer can run the risk of getting into your food or on any of the utensils. And then you're essentially eating the sanitizer. And you don't want to do that because you can get sick. All right. So you're going to take your round mold and put it right on the plate. You're going to take your squeeze bottle. This may be a little difficult depending on what type of squeeze bottle you have, but if it's not perfectly around the mold, it's okay, because I practiced this last night and I know. So what you're going to do is take the squeeze bottle into the mold and you're going to squeeze it about 3/4 of the way. So I'm squeezing. Like I said, my squeeze bottle is kind of big, so it's not perfect. I know you see that. And that's fine, because you're going to take your spoon and push it down 3/4 of the way, and then you're going to lift it up and you're left with this. Very simple. So again, if you have an item that you are plating, you can put this here where the opening is, or let's say you're doing like a small cut of steak, you'll put it right inside of the middle. So even though it's a small cut of steak, you feel really fancy because you have sauce on the plate. And then once you're doing that, you can also put your vegetables on top of the steak. But I'm just saying that if it's steak, you could also do a round cut of a piece of cake and just put that right on there. Or you could do like a peach puree and some peach cobbler. Or, you know, peach cobbler is usually kind of broken down and it's not a solid most of the time. You can put it inside of a ramekin, put that ramekin right there and put like some nuts around it. So just because it's a garnish doesn't mean it has to be sauce. Sometimes it can be like pecans or crushed peanuts or something like that. But you can still do some of the same things. So this one's very, very simple. Very simple.
And Chef Smith, what items should be plated first? And you said before that we can make desserts ahead of time. So should we plate as soon as we do the desserts, or should plating be done right before they are being served? Thinking back to when we're prepping our food, when should plating begin?
It depends. The first thing, what I tell my students is when you are doing the menu, think about how you want to plate it. Because if you're constantly putting things down on the plate and moving them, putting them down, moving them, then you're running the risk of messing up the plate. So you're going to have a bunch of residue from everything that you put down and picked up. So map out what you want to do first. And then it also depends on what dish you're doing. So if you're doing a main dish, you want to, most of the time you want to put down the meat first, but you also want to make sure that your plate has some type of height. You don't want it to be flat. So when we're making dinner, we just put everything down on the plate and it looks flat. But if we're doing a dinner party, you really want to wow the guests. So I know for me, with savory, I put my meat down first, and then I usually like stack my vegetables or whatever starch I'm having on top. But again, it really depends. For desserts, I always put my main dish down first. So the cake, it's mostly cake. I'm gonna be honest, it's mostly cake. So I'll put my cake down first, and then I'll do like sauce on the side. But there's another one on here called Zigzag. And if you're doing the Zigzag sauce, which is cute, simple, and effective, you will put the sauce down first. So map it out, figure out what you want to do. Sometimes it's going to require you to put that sauce down first. So if you're doing something like the half moon, you're going to have to put the sauce down first. So map it out, know what you guys want. When you're hosting, it is all you. You have to be very decisive. So it's going to take a little bit of time to practice what you want to do and map out what you want to do. All right, so if you are using the same plate, just go ahead and wipe that down so you can go ahead and get started for the next one. And the next one is a circular swirl. So you're either going to wipe this down to reset or get another plate. Clearly, I'm going to have to do a lot of dishes, but that's okay. I've been doing dishes for quite a while. And this one, super on the inside. So I could put like a nice pretty salad on here. But of course, if I'm doing a salad, I'm not going to do a sauce. But that's okay. All right, so you're going to take your squeeze bottle. And again, I have mustard. And you're going to put a generous dot on there. There we go. All right, so you're going to put a generous dot on there. Then it did ask for a lid, but if you do not have a lid, you can use the bottom of a cup or a jar. I'm using just the bottom of my mason jar. You're going to sit it on there. Don't press it all the way down. I'm still holding it. I just want to squeeze it out a little bit. And then you're going to big or small on it. This would also depend on what you're going to be placing on top. You're going to put the cup right back in the center and lift it up. If you're using a lid, you're probably going to need the end of your spoon to help lift it up. So simple. Now, if you're using this, I would recommend you use whatever your main dish is and put it on top. That way you don't have this little volcano. So again, simple. You get the sauce down on the bottom. And the reason that you want to use a sauce that's going to complement what your main dish is because once they go into their food, they're gripping up some of that sauce. So you don't want the sauce to be more overpowering than what you're cooking or what you're serving, because they're going to be eating it with that. Another thing with garnishes that a lot of people don't pay attention to, your garnish on your plate needs to be edible. Don't put anything on your plate that is not edible. Bay leaves, although they look great and you can put it in food, is not edible. A bay leaf is not edible.
All right, we are getting some awesome tips from Chef Smith today. For our Girl Scouts that are joining us, do you have any recommendations of what you like to use for garnish as we're thinking about our dinner? I'm thinking in my head, I would love to try mint. I like chocolate chip mint ice cream, so I'm thinking mint would be a great garnish to use. I've seen where mint has been used even for meats. That would be a great garnish to have. I would think about the sauce would be maybe a pea soup could maybe be used as a garnish for that with the pea and mint to kind of have those flavors together.
Oh man, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh man, but I've seen some people. I remember now. There are some flowers that are edible. I know that sounds crazy, but again, I like to try different things. So I've never used any flowers in my plate presentation, but it's spring. You use what you have to get what you need, basically. So when it's spring, think about the season you're in. Because I did say earlier, depending on what season you're in, that's going to determine what's accessible. So in the summertime, there are a lot of peaches. And I keep saying peaches because I really love peaches, y'all. Like, I hate the fact that I can only really get them in the summer because I really love peaches. So it's spring. There are flowers blooming. There are some fruit and vegetables that are in abundance. When they're in abundance, they're cheaper. So you can get wholesale, you can get a lot of them without spending a whole bunch of money. So just think about what season you're in, think about what's available, and plan your menu around that. All right. Any questions so far before we move on?
I think we're good to go.
All right, cool. All right, so of course that was a lot of sauce. So you can either clean that up or get you another plate. You already know that I'm going to be getting another plate. All right, this is one of my favorite ways to do sauce, and it's called the tapered line. So when you are doing the tapered line, I'm going to show you the base way to do it, but there are different ways you can do it. So one of the ways, well, the first way, you take 2 dots right beside each other. And then you're going to take your spoon. If you're using a puree, you would just scoop it up and dop it down. But of course, you know, I have a squeeze bottle. So you can use a squeeze bottle or you can just scoop it up. And you're gonna put this in here and just drag it down. I'm gonna do it a couple of times because I want my line to be a little bit longer. And then I'm gonna do this opposite way. So it took me a few times to get it through because I didn't put as much down, but it's all right. So they can either cross each other or if you're putting them on top, one can go this way, the other can go the other way. So this is one of my favorite ways to do sauce. Again, simple. Doing sauce is simple and effective. It really makes a difference. So there, you can either do it across each other or parallel from each other. So like I said, another very simple way. And I'm getting mustard everywhere. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes before we move on to the next one.
Chef Smith, while our girls are getting they're getting their plate ready for your next technique. We have, as chefs, you have to watch out for allergens and different other considerations that your dietary restrictions that your guests may have. So what are some kind of things that we need to think about? Like maybe if we have a nut allergy, would I be able to use coconut oil? Would that be some things that we maybe can think about when we're trying to plate or when we're plating and using different sauces in the meals?
So what I've noticed, as you guys know, nut allergies, gluten, and seafood are the biggest allergens that you really need to watch out for. So when you are doing a menu, you need to also think about who's going to be there. Get in touch with those people. Hey, do you have any allergens at all? And then stay away from those things. So also there's a thing where people with nut allergies are only allergic to tree nuts, or only allergic to other nuts, or some of them all nuts. If you're allergic to nuts, sometimes you know the difference, sometimes you don't. So if you are only allergic to tree nuts, you stay away from nuts that grow on trees, so like coconuts. So yes, you would have to stay away from coconut oil or peanuts or anything like that. On the safe side, especially as a chef, because lawsuits are real, to stay away from all nuts. If they clearly state, hey, I'm allergic to nuts, or hey, nut allergies run in my family, stay away from it. No coconut oil, no peanut oil, obviously no crushed nuts at all, and read your ingredients, because those ingredients will tell you everything. They have to state what is inside of it. And not only reading the ingredients, research the ingredients, because sometimes it can be a refined peanut oil under a different name. So be cautious of that. Also with gluten, sometimes things can have gluten in it without you realizing it. If somebody is vegan, which means they don't eat any animal byproducts at all, check that as well, because like gelatin is not vegan. It doesn't mean they have meat in it, but they use an animal byproduct, which means that somebody who's vegan is not going to use it. Or a honey, if you're putting like a honey glaze on your carrots, yes, carrots are vegetarian and vegans can eat it, but if you're doing a honey glaze, people that are vegan are not going to eat it because of the use of honey. So just be cautious of your audience. You are feeding them, so you need to cater to them. Okay? All right, so I cleaned off my plate because I only have 2 more left, and we still have a couple of more sauces. You know what? No, I could use another one. I want to show y'all my plates. So here's my next plate. All right, so what this requires you guys to do, if you, like I said, I have mustard, so I'm going to squeeze my mustard inside of the little plastic bowl I have right here so that I can scoop it up. And this one is just called Splat. So it's like you're making abstract art. So you're going to scoop a little bit and you're literally just going to splat it on the plate. Just put it a little bit of everywhere. I'm going to keep mine in the same area. Oh, that one was a little puny, but it's okay. So I just keep going in that area. But you just kind of want to splat it, get it really artsy. I'm going to keep mine, like I said, I kept mine on the same side of the plate, because if I am plating, I'm going to use the clean side to be art as well. So I know sometimes, I have seen where they'll have like the meat up here and then a random row of fruit and vegetables or crushed nuts. So you always want to use, well, not always, but most of the time I use the clean side to plate. If it's savory, I use the clean side. If it's sweet, I would put it on top of a small portion of the sauce, because I want them to go through the dessert and scoop the sauce. So simple. This is not one that I use personally. Like I said, I told you guys I love the tapered line. That's my favorite. Put it on there, swipe, and I just like that one. That's one of my favorites. So that is the splat. If you're artistic, that's probably the one you go with. All right, so we have 2 more left. I'm going to do both of them on the same plate. So I'm going to use 1/2 for the abstract circles, and then the other half for the zigzag. All right. So for abstract circle, you're going to need your small bowl, your small ring molds, and then your sauce. So you're going to start with your sauce inside of the bowl.
Chef Smith, while you're doing that, if I did not have a small ring bowl, what is something else that I may be able to use?
That's a good question. And you know what? I was thinking about that last night. If you, if you have a glass that's small, I know that's kind of weird, but maybe like the top of a baby pacifier or a baby bottle, or you can use your big molds, a cookie cutter, and they can be different shapes. They don't have to be circle. So Easter's coming up. I have cookie cutters that look like bunny rabbits. I could easily do this in the shape of a bunny rabbit instead of a small mold. You could use the top of your mason jar or glass just to be a big circle. So you just get creative. You get creative. All right, so what you do, you take your round mold or whatever it is that you have, and you're just gonna dip it inside of the sauce, move it around so it coats the bottom. And then you're gonna put it on your plate as if you're like cutting cookie dough. You know, you're cutting cookie dough with a cookie cutter. You have to get down in there, shimmy it around a little bit, and then you pick it up and you have your circle. So you're gonna put a series of circle on your plate. You can put it all across the plate. You can put it on one side. You know, my go-to method is just having it on one side. They can overlap if you want them to. And then, you know, the Olympics were canceled this year, but I've heard of some people having like an Olympic party, kind of like you would do for any sport. That's a perfect thing to do for Olympic dinner party. For the Olympic rings, you can even have different colored sauces depending on what it is that you are serving. It makes a difference. People remember those things. Gourmet hot dog with mustard sauce. Or even like mini hot dogs where you would put like 3 different hot dogs on there with your sauce. It sounds crazy, but it's effective. It really is. All right, so again, simple but effective, and it looks really nice. It looks uniform because of the cookie cutter. So like I said, you guys could use a different cookie cutter. You can use heart-shaped cookie cutters, bunnies, egg-shaped flowers. It really doesn't even matter. All right, and like I told you guys, I'm going to use the other half of my plate, but if you did not do that, you can wipe this down or get you a second plate. And then you're going to need to use your squeeze bottle for this last one. Or of course, I have mustard. I'm glad we don't use mustard a lot in my house because I've almost used this whole bottle. All right, and the last one is a simple zigzag. So you will just do a zigzag across the plate. And it doesn't have to be uniform. It can be as big as you want it, as small as you want it. This is also something that I used to use a lot in college when we were doing hot and cold plated desserts. And I would do it across the whole plate. When you're doing plated desserts or even plated saucing plates, you have to use a certain amount of sauce for it to actually be considered you using sauce. So that's 2 or more ounces of sauce. So really big across the plate. And chef couldn't say no because I did do a sauce design. I really did. And I do have a bonus one, which is one of my favorites. I'm hoping, I haven't done it in a while, so I hope I do it right. And I'm just gonna use the small part of the last little bit of my plate. I would just put my sauce down, scoop it and drop it, then use the back part of my spoon and just push it across. I know you guys have seen that a lot. It's very simple. I would either do 1 or I would do 2 and almost look like a yin yang a little bit, and then have whatever I have in the middle. So that's my go-to. Even if you're having, I'm thinking about those like painting parties where you have people come over and they paint on a canvas. You can do all 3 of these on a plate because your theme would be artsy. So just like I have this, you could have all 3 of those.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chef Smith, for all of your advice and guidance, recommendations, and these beautiful plating techniques. Like I said, with the holidays coming up, I know what my theme dinner party will be. Even my dessert plate, based off what you have done. So again, for our Girl Scout ambassadors, we thank you for joining us. I just want to go back and recap what we've done today. We talked about creating a menu and where to start, how to make a budget shopping list, how to get everything organized prior to and after, practice timing your courses, how to meal prep and which things can be plated before, after, or prep before and after. We also learned from Chef Smith ways on how to present our food and dishes that we're going to be serving. So the next step within this badge is for you to plan a themed dinner, lunch, or even brunch party. Use a theme that allows you to use resources and supplies that you already have in your home with you currently. And don't forget to incorporate what you've learned from steps 1 through 4 from today's badge work. We want to welcome you again. Thank you for joining us in collaboration with the Girl Scouts of Mountains to Midlands in Eastern Carolina. Thank you to Chef Smith from Sweet Success Bakery for joining us today as our expert chef. And also tune in next Friday at 11 a.m. to our next badge session, which is Outdoor Art Maker. And don't forget to join us on our council's Facebook for our 3 p.m. Facebook fun activity for all ages. Thank you so much and have a great weekend.
Thank you.